Is it working? I can't tell. I'm sure it will be working soon. There we are. Yes, yes. We are live on both Facebook and YouTube. I've got a nice big supply of mystery drink in this 64-ounce growler. Wouldn't you like to know what it's filled with? Either way, I will be chugging it tonight. Refreshing. Lovely, lovely, lovely stuff. All right. So, welcome once again to Story Time. I see I already have 3 viewers on YouTube, and I'm guessing probably 1 or 2 on Facebook, maybe. I really don't like the feature on Facebook, but it doesn't tell you how many people are watching or who is watching. It's really dumb with this new live format. I really don't like it. I'd send something to them. Hello, Mum, I see you're watching. I'd send something to them, but I don't think it would do any good. Regardless, hello, welcome, glad you all are here. And tonight we will be reading some Russian fairy tales as well as one of my own. So, before we get started, make sure you like and subscribe to my channel on YouTube. That's bpecorny1. And make sure you join the Facebook group. That would be Story Time with an exclamation point at the end. And, I actually also started a Twitch account. So I may be doing some game streaming soon. If you would like to see that, the name of the channel, and hello, Nick, good to see you. Glad you joined. The name of the channel on Twitch. Hello, Kathleen, good to see you have joined as well. The name of the channel on Twitch is Brett Doesn't Game, all one word, capital B at the beginning, no apostrophe, just Brett Doesn't Game, which, is not untrue. So there's that. Anyway, time to get to what this is really about tonight, the stories. And oh yes, and please do share Story Time with your friends. I'm going to real quickly share the link on my Facebook so others can watch live. Yes, copy the link, damn you. Okay, there we are. Link copied. Time to get to it and post it. Story time. But yes, if you'd like to view me on Twitch, like I said, the name is Brett Doesn't Game, all one word, capital B, no apostrophe. And yes, I suppose I'll be playing a few games from time to time. I think I may play Alan Wake. That's a wonderful game I haven't played in a number of years. So that could be a lot of fun. Anyway, glad to have you all here. Make sure you share story time with your friends so that they can watch as well. And without further ado, let us get to it. Please be sure to leave a comment if you would like a shout out. I would be happy to give it to you. So, let us pick up where we were last evening in the Russian fairy tales with a new story called The Speedy Messenger. Yes, The Speedy Messenger. It looks like this is a slightly longer one. Oh yes, this is a longer one. So, and it's got several illustrations. So we will read this one, then we will read an original tale of mine, followed by 1 or 2 more Russian fairy tales. So let us kick it off with The Speedy Messenger. And you know what? I'm going to leave this open so I don't have to unscrew it every time I want a sip. So I can just reach over and grab it. Ah, good stuff. The Speedy Messenger. In a certain land, in a certain kingdom, there were certain impassable swamps. A circuitous road went around them. Circuitous road. I think that sounds cooler, don't you? A circuitous road went around them. It took 3 years to travel fast on this road, and if one traveled slowly, even 5 were not enough. Near the road lived a poor old man who had 3 sons. The first was named Ivan, the second Vasily, and the third was little Semyon. The old man determined to clear the swamps, to lay a straight road for travelers on foot and travelers on horseback, and to build white hazelwood bridges over the streams so that a man on foot could pass through the swamps in 3 weeks and a rider on horseback in 3 days. He set to work together with his sons, and after not a little time, everything was finished just as he had planned. Sturdy were the white hazel bridges, and cleared was the fine straight road. The poor man returned to his hut and said to Ivan, his firstborn, "Go, my beloved son, sit under the first bridge, and listen to what folks say about us, whether it will be good or evil." Obedient to his father's command, Ivan hid himself under the first bridge. Two venerable hermits walked over the bridge and said to each other, "To him who laid this bridge and cleared the road, whatever he asks of the Lord will give it to him." As soon as Ivan heard these words, he came out from under the hazelwood bridge and said, "This bridge I laid with my father and brothers." "And what do you wish of the Lord?" said the holy men asked him. "That the Lord would make me rich for the rest of my life." "Very well, go to the open field. In the open field there is an old oak. Under that oak is a deep vault, and in that vault are gold and silver and precious stones galore. Take a shovel and dig. The Lord will make you rich for life." Ivan went to the open field, dug up much gold and silver and many precious stones under the oak, and took them home. "Well, little son," the poor man asked him, "have you seen anyone walking or driving over the bridge? And what do people say about us?" Ivan told his father that he had seen two venerable men, and that they had rewarded him for life. The next day, the poor man sent Vasily, his middle son, to the bridge. Vasily sat under the hazel logs and listened. Two venerable men walked over the bridge, came to the spot above his hiding place, and said, "He who laid this bridge, whatever he asks of the Lord will give it to him." As soon as Vasily heard these words, he came out and said, "This bridge I laid with my father and brothers." "And what do you ask of the Lord?" "That the Lord give me bread for the rest of my life." "Very well, go home. Stake out a piece of fresh land and sow it. The Lord will give you bread for all your life." Vasily came home, told his father all that had happened, marked out a piece of fresh land, and sowed it with grain. The third day, the poor man sent his youngest son to the bridge. Little Semyon sat under the logs and listened. Two venerable men walked over the bridge, came to the spot above his hiding place, and said, "He who laid this bridge, whatever he asks of the Lord will give it to him." Little Semyon heard these words, came out, and said, "This bridge I laid with my father and brothers." "And what do you ask of the Lord?" "I ask of him a favor, to serve as a soldier to the great sovereign." "Ask for something else. A soldier's service is hard. If you become a soldier, you fall captive to the Sea King, and many tears will you shed. You are venerable hermits, and you know very well he who does not weep in this world will weep in the next." "Well, since you will serve the king, we give you our blessing," said the venerable old men. They put their hands on little Semyon and turned him into a fleet-footed stag. The stag ran to his father's house. From the window his father and brothers saw him, jumped out of the hut, and wanted to catch him. The stag turned back. He came running to the two venerable old men, and they turned him into a hare. The hare darted back to the house. The father and brothers saw him, jumped out of the hut, and wanted to catch him, but he turned back again. He came running to the two venerable old men, who turned him into a little bird with a golden head. I'm very confused, dear listeners. This was an interesting story, and then it turned really interesting. The bird flew to the house and sat on the window sill. Yes, sat on the window sill. That's what happened there. And hello, Shay, glad you have joined us. On the windowsill. The father and brothers saw him and jumped up to catch him, but he took wing and flew back. Okay, good. Yeah, flew back. The bird came flying to the two venerable old men, who turned him into a human again and said, "Now, little Semyon, you can go into the king's service. If you ever need to run somewhere in a hurry, you can turn into a stag, a hare, and a bird with a golden head. We have taught you how." Little Semyon went home and asked his father's permission to go into the king's service. "Why should you go?" answered the poor old man. "You are still young and foolish." "No, father, you let me go. It is God's will." The poor man gave permission, and little Semyon made his bundle and said farewell to his father and brothers, and set out on his way. After some time, a long time or a short time, he came to the king's court, went straight to the king himself, and said, Your Majesty, do not punish me. Let me speak. Speak, little Semyon. Your Majesty, take me into your service. Impossible. You are small and foolish. How could you serve? Although I am small and stupid, I will serve no worse than the others. God will help me. The king consented, took him as a soldier, and ordered him to stay near his person. Some time passed, and suddenly a certain king declared a terrible war against our king. He began to prepare himself to take the field. At the appointed hour, his whole army assembled. Little Semyon asked permission to go to war. The king could not refuse him, so took him with him and set out to the field of battle. For a long time, the king marched with his troops. He left many lands behind him, and soon was close to the enemy. In about 3 days, he would have to give battle. At that moment, the king realized that he had neither his battle mace nor his sharp sword with him. He had forgotten them in the palace. He had nothing to defend himself with, to defeat the enemy forces with. He issued a call to all his troops. Would someone undertake to go to the palace in a hurry and bring him his battle mace and sharp sword? To him who would do this service, he promised his daughter, Princess Maria, in marriage, half his kingdom as a dowry, and the other half after his death. Volunteers presented themselves. Some said that they could do the errand in 3 years, others in 2 years, still others in 1 year. But little Semyon said to the sovereign, Your Majesty, I can go to the palace and bring the battle mace and the sharp sword in 3 days. The king was delighted, took him by the hand, kissed him on the mouth, and at once wrote a letter to Princess Maria telling her to trust the messenger and give him the sword and the mace. Little Semyon took the letter from the king and set out on his way. Having travelled about 1 verst, he turned into a fleet-footed stag and darted off like an arrow from a bow. He ran and ran until he got tired and turned from a stag into a hare. Then he raced ahead at a hare's pace. He ran and ran until all his legs were weary, and then turned from a hare into a little bird with a golden head. He flew even faster, flew, and in a day and a half reached the kingdom where Princess Maria was. He turned back into a human, entered the palace, and gave the princess his letter. Princess Maria took it, unsealed it, read it, and said, But how could you run across so many lands so speedily? This is how, answered the messenger. He turned into a fleet-footed stag, ran once or twice around the princess' chamber, approached the princess, and put his head on her knees. He took her scissors and cut a tuft of fur from his head. The stag turned into a hare. The hare capered a little in the chamber and jumped onto the princess's knees. She cut a tuft of fur from him then too. The hare turned into a little bird with a golden head. The bird flew around the room a little and perched on the princess's hand. Princess Maria cut a golden feather from his head and wrapped all these, the stag's fur, the hare's fur, and the golden feather, into a handkerchief and hid them on her person. The bird with the golden head then turned back into a messenger. The princess gave him meat and drink, helped him to get ready for his journey, and gave him the battle mace and the sharp sword. Then they said goodbye to each other, kissed heartily in farewell, and little Semyon went back to the king. Again he ran as a fleet-footed stag, bounded as a slant-eyed hare, flew as a little bird, and by the end of the 3rd day saw the king's camp nearby. At about 300 paces from the army, he lay down on the beach near a bayberry bush to rest from his journey. He put the battle mace and the sharp sword by his side. From great weariness, he fell asleep soon and soundly. Just then, a general happened to pass by the bayberry bush and saw the messenger. Straightway pushed him into the sea, took the battle mace and the sharp sword, brought them back to the king, and said, Your Majesty, here are your battle mace and sharp sword. I fetched them myself, and that braggart, little Semyon, will surely take 3 years. The king thanked the general, began to fight with the enemy, and in a short time won a brilliant victory over him. As for little Semyon, we have seen that he fell into the sea. That very moment the sea king seized him and carried him to the deepest depth. He lived with this king for a whole year, grew bored and sad, and wept bitterly. The sea king came to him and said, Well, little Semyon, are you bored here? I am bored, your majesty. Would you fain go to the Russian world? I would, if such is your royal favor. The sea king carried him out exactly at midnight, left him on the shore, and himself returned to the sea. Little Semyon prayed to God, Lord, give me some sun. Just before the rising of the red sun, the Sea King came again, snatched him, and carried him to the depths of the sea. But, okay, all right, fine. Little Semyon lived there for another whole year. He became bored and wept very bitterly. The Sea King asked him, "What is the matter? Are you bored?" "I am bored," said little Semyon. "Would you fain go to the Russian world?" "I would, your majesty." The king took him out to the shore at midnight and himself returned to the sea. Little Semyon prayed to God with tears in his eyes, "My Lord, give me some sun." Day had just begun to break when the Sea King came and snatched him and carried him once more to the depths of the sea. Little Semyon lived in the sea for a third year, became bored, and wept bitterly, inconsolably. "What is the matter, Semyon? Are you bored?" the Sea King asked him. "Would you fain to go to the Russian world?" "I would, your majesty." The Sea King cast him on the shore and himself returned to the sea. And here is an image. There is an illustration for you. Here it is. Yes, interesting that it is. I imagine that's the princess, and it looks like probably Semyon as several of the whatever he is. Bird slash hare slash horse. Semyon, the little youth, prayed to God with tears in his eyes, "My Lord, give me some sun." Suddenly the sun shone with his bright rays, and now the Sea King no longer could take him into captivity. Little Semyon set out for his kingdom. He returned first into a stag, then into a hare, and then into a little bird with a golden head. After a short time, he found himself near the king's palace, and while all this had been happening, the king had come back from the war and betrothed his daughter, Princess Maria, to the deceitful general. Little Semyon entered the chamber to which the bridegroom and the promised bride were sitting at table. Is that a fly? Sounds like there's a fly in here. Oh my. Oh, it is a fly, and it's up at the light. That's going to annoy me. Anyway, let us move on. Princess Maria to the deceitful general. Little Semyon entered the chamber in which the bridegroom and the promised bride were sitting at table. Princess Maria saw him and said to the king, "Sovereign, my father, do not punish me. Let me speak." "Speak, my daughter. What do you wish?" "Sovereign, my father, my bridegroom is not the one who is sitting at the table, but the one who has just come. Now show us, little Semyon, how at that time you ran speedily for the battle mace and the sharp sword." Little Semyon turned into a fleet-footed stag, ran once or twice around the chamber, and stopped near the princess. Princess Maria took from her kerchief the bit of fur she had cut from the stag, showed the king the spot at which she had clipped it, and said, "Look, father, here are my proofs." The stag turned into a hare. The hare capered in the chamber and leapt to the princess's knee. Princess Maria took the bit of hare's fur from her kerchief. The hare turned into a little bird with a golden head. The bird flew a little in the chamber and perched on the princess's hand. Princess Maria untied the third knot in her kerchief and showed the golden feather. Then the king learned the real truth, ordered the general to be put to death, married Princess Maria to little Semyon, and made him his heir. Well, alrighty then. That happened. And here's a little illustration of, I'm guessing, a sun. I think it's a sun. I think. I'm having some trouble with direction here. There it is. That's at the end of the story. All right, so that was the Russian fairy tale. And, all right, so yes. So what we will do now, I will read you a story of my own, and then we will move on to one more Russian fairy tale for the evening. Sound good? Sound good. Okay, sounds good. All right, and don't forget, if you would like a shout out to leave a comment. So far, I've got comments from Mum, Kathleen, Shay, and Nick. Good to see all of you here. Glad you're all here. Glad I have some viewers tonight. And make sure you share so that others may view as well. What I'm going to read to you tonight is not an entire story. Rather, it is a clipping from a story of mine. I'm writing a sort of detectives novel, sort of noir style novel, if you will, and it comes in multiple pieces. So each piece, each chapter is a different character, and they go back and forth between characters, about 5 different characters. So it's a lot of jumping around, but I think it's quite fun. And the part that I want to read for you tonight is the first chapter, of one of the characters, and thank you, Shay, for sharing. I appreciate it. The chapter I wanted to read to you tonight is the introduction chapter for a very fun character, one I like very much. He is the world's most unlucky assassin. All right. So yes, this is a chapter from his world. So the larger story is called Dark World. I'm working on it. I think it might need a different title, but anyway, for now that's what it is. And this one is this chapter is called Die You Son of a Bitch. So yes, one more time. The chapter is titled Die You Son of a Bitch. I like that. In case you couldn't tell. Anyway, let us read it. I will read it for you now. Here we go. James's dark brown hair was slightly too long for the style in which he wore it. Sure, he combed it in the morning, but it had a tendency to fall in his eyes throughout the day. He'd periodically use the meat of his palm to wipe it back up, but naturally it would fall back down, to which he'd shake it up, then hold his head at a slightly awkward angle to keep it in place. He looked tired, but alert. I'm not one for breaking hearts. Never been all that lucky with the ladies, see. Don't know what it is, but I can't put people out of the way, not in good conscience. For all you know, you're having a shit day, and all I've done is make it worse by interrupting you. Maybe you saw me for the briefest of moments, and in that fraction of a second, you thought, oh my God, I really hope that asshole doesn't catcall me, doesn't come on to me, doesn't threaten me, doesn't hurt me, doesn't get close to me, whatever. I just don't want to be the guy who ruins your day. I'm not an asshole. I just do asshole things from time to time. This one broad, she was my assignment, you see. Client wanted me to be hands-on, and they wanted it to feel like a betrayal. I'm not used to that sort of thing. Usually I'm just the muscle. Like I said, I don't break hearts, I break legs. Anyway, a bitch of a sister wanted her dead so she could be the sole heir to her father's fortune when he croaked in what she assumed would be a few months. Don't ask me why she wanted to make it personal instead of having her just jump off a building or something. I don't get paid to speculate, you see. Where was I? Right, so her sister sets the two of us up on a blind date. Naturally, I know enough about the girl to play it like we got some common interests or some shit like that. Goes well, we go out again. It goes well, we go out again. You get it. Give it a few weeks, I set up a romantic dinner on the roof of an apartment building in town. You can actually see the stars from up there. I was impressed. Oh, so we're up there having a nice time. I'm talking dinner, music. We do some dancing. I get her to the edge of the roof, give her a big kiss. I took my own advice, shoved her off the roof, but not before saying, I'm sorry. I think I actually enjoyed her company. The therapist's eyes widened slightly. You shoved her off the roof? Yeah, said James. But here's the part I need to talk to you about. See, she fell a long way, long enough she should have been kaput, no questions asked. But I swear to God, somebody was dragging an old mattress outside to throw away. Who carries a fucking mattress parallel to the ground? She fucking falls on this mattress. It drops out of the grips of the guys carrying it, hits the ground, and I swear it must have been filled with fucking jello because she bounced up and landed on her feet like a goddamn cat. She looked up at me, kind of covered her mouth, breathing all heavy, starts gasping, oh my God, he. And before she can say another word, she backs into the street, gets hit by a fucking truck. So let me get this straight. You're basically confessing to murder right now. What? No, it's not murder because she got hit by a truck. Attempted murder, then, which directly led to the death of a person. The heat and tightness were rising from his stomach to his throat. He'd had interesting clients before, but he always assumed the gangsters telling their tales was a happening reserved for HBO. Although his nerves and instincts were screaming for him to cower in the corner of the room, the therapist held his ground. His eyes widening earlier had been a shock reaction. He wouldn't allow that to happen again. Calm, unmoving. I mean, if you want to get technical, yeah, whatever. You're my therapist. We got the client confidentiality thing, right? It's a bit fuzzy, but I don't see you as an immediate danger to anyone right now, so yes. Good. For a second there, I was afraid I might have to make you get a bit fuzzy, Doc. Yes, well, how about we stay a little more vague from now on so there's no fuzz? Yeah, sure, whatever. So what do you think? Think of what? It's crazy, isn't it? Isn't it weird? I mean, it's not the first time something like this has happened. Chance, coincidence, fate, those aren't really my specialty. I don't care about your specialty. Then why are you talking to me? because I need someone to talk to. If I talk to someone else in my line of work, they might turn on me one day. Competition, you know. If I talk to family or friends, they might turn me in. If I talk to my employer, they think I'm going soft and send someone to take care of me. Well, it sounds like you're lonely to me. Sounds like you're longing for a connection. What? No. No? The therapist looked skeptical. I don't need a connection, Doc, just an outlet. I'm confused. If you're not longing for some kind of connection, then why did you mention the part where you said you were sorry before pushing the woman off the roof? Yeah, well, it was like another way of saying nothing personal before doing the deed, you know? Sure, but you also said you thought you enjoyed her company. What's weird about that? You made it sound like it was unusual. Do you not get along with many people? Get along with plenty of people. I just don't usually click with a target, you know? Granted, don't usually have to date a target, but the whole personal connection thing was strange. Other than the fact that she was a target, what was strange about it? Eyes shift in an instant, noticeable only to those paying particular attention. Muscles tighten and relax. Nothing. The therapist remained silent for a moment while James sat in discomfort across from him. Nothing. I just. Yeah. More silence from the therapist. The office was quiet, apart from the gentle tick of a wall clock. James was now visibly upset. His eyebrows were beginning to furrow, and his lips furled ever so slightly. His breathing slowed, but grew more heavy and deliberate. I don't. Go on. Almost there. James was almost there. I've never had an interest in romance. I still don't, but in that moment, it was like I watched a different life I could have had as it fell over the edge of the rooftop with her. Have you ever thought about retiring? Changing a line of work? James laughed, a genuine but melancholy laugh. You don't retire from what I do. And that, everyone, was the chapter I wanted to read to you. So I hope you enjoyed it. I thought it was rather fun. That was chapter 3 from my little novelization. And yes, it was once again called Die, You Son of a Bitch. And it's regarding the world's most unlucky assassin. So fun stuff, fun stuff. I hope you enjoyed it. Moving on, we still have 1 or 2 more tales from the Russian fairy tale booklet, and then I will let you go for the evening. Trying not to break things. I broke a wine glass earlier. Unfortunate, but whatever. It is what it is. Things happen. I've got plenty of those. This one is called Vasilisa, the priest's daughter. In a certain land, in a certain kingdom, there was a priest named Vasily who had a daughter named Vasilisa. Vasilisa Vasilyevna. I think I got that. She wore man's clothes, rode horseback, was a good shot with the rifle, and did everything in a quite unmaidenly way, so that only very few people knew that she was a girl. Most people thought she was a man and called her Vasily Vasilievich, all the more so because Vasilisa Vasilyevna was very fond of vodka, and this, as is well known, is entirely unbecoming to a maiden. One day, King Barkot, for that was the name of the king of that country, went to hunt game, and he met Vasilisa Vasilyevna. She was riding horseback in her man's clothes and was also hunting. When he saw her, King Barkot asked his servants, "Who is that young woman?" One servant answered him, "Your Majesty, that is not..." sorry, "Who is that young man?" One servant answered him, "Your Majesty, that is not a man, but a girl. I know for a certainty that she is the daughter of the priest Vasily, and that her name is Vasilisa Vasilyevna." As soon as the king returned home, he wrote a letter to the priest Vasily, asking him to permit his son Vasily Vasilievich to come to visit him and eat at the king's table. Meanwhile, he himself went to the little old backyard witch and began to question her as to how he could find out whether Vasily Vasilievich was really a girl. The little old witch said to him, "On the right side of your chamber, hang up an embroidery frame, and on the left side, a gun. She is really Vasilisa Vasilyevna. She will first notice the embroidery frame. If she is Vasily Vasilievich, she will notice the gun." King Barkot followed the little old witch's advice and ordered his servants to hang up an embroidery frame and a gun in his chamber. As soon as the king's letter reached Father Vasily, and he showed it to his daughter, she went to the stable, saddled a grey horse with a grey mane, and went straight to King Barkot's palace. The king received her. She politely said her prayers, made the sign of the cross as is prescribed, bowed low to all four sides, graciously greeted King Barkot, and entered the palace with him. They sat together at table and began to drink heady drinks and eat rich viands. Not vines, as in, swinging like Tarzan, but viands, Viands. After dinner, Vasilisa Vasilievna walked with King Barkot through the palace chambers. As soon as she saw the embroidery frame, she began to reproach King Barkot. "What kind of junk do you have there, King Barkot? In my father's house there is no trace of such womanish fiddle-faddle, but in King Barkot's palace, womanish fiddle-faddle hangs in the chambers." Then she politely said farewell to King Barkot and rode home. The king had not found out whether she was really a girl. "But didn't you? Didn't you? Did she not notice the thing first? Oh, goodness, there's a bug. Oh, well, I'll deal with it later." And so 2 days later, no more. King Barkot again sent a letter to the priest Vasily. "Hi, little bug. Hello. How are you? You're flying around. You're distracting me." Oh, well. King Barkot again sent a letter to the priest Vasily, asking him to send his son Vasily Vasilievich to the palace. As soon as Vasilisa Vasilievna heard about this, she went to the stable, saddled a grey horse with a grey mane, and rode straight to King Barkot's palace. The king received her. She graciously greeted him, politely said her prayers to God, made the sign of the cross as is prescribed, and bowed low to all four sides. King Barkot had been advised by the little old backyard witch to order kasha cooked for supper, to have it stuffed with pearls. The little old witch had told him that if the youth was really Vasilisa Vasilievna, he would put the pearls in a pile. And if he was Vasily Vasilievich, he would throw them under the table. Supper time came. The king sat at the table and placed Vasilisa Vasilievna on his right hand, and they began to drink hearty drinks and eat rich viands. Kasha was served after all the other dishes, and as soon as Vasilisa Vasilievna took a spoonful of it and discovered a pearl, she flung it under the table together with the kasha and began to reproach King Barkot. "What kind of trash did they put in your kasha?" she said. "In my father's house there is no trace of such womanish fiddle-faddle, yet in King Barkot's house womanish fiddle-faddle is put in the food." Then she politely said farewell to King Barkot and rode home. Again, the king had not found out whether she was really a girl, although he badly wanted to know. 2 days later, upon the advice of the little old witch, King Barkot ordered that his bath be heated. She had told him that if the youth really was Vasilisa Vasilievna, he would refuse to go to the baths with him, so the bath was heated. Again, King Barkot wrote a letter to the priest Vasily, telling him to send his son Vasily Vasilievich to the palace for a visit. As soon as Vasilisa Vasilievna heard about it, she went to the stable, saddled her grey horse with the grey mane, and galloped straight to the King Barkot's palace. Yes, we get it. The king went out to receive her on the front porch. She greeted him civilly and entered the palace on a velvet rug. Having come in, she politely said her prayers to God, blah, 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 made the sign of the cross as is prescribed, and bowed low to all four sides. Then she sat at table with King Barkot and began to drink heady drinks and eat rich viands. After dinner, the king said, "Would it not please you, Vasily Vasilievich, to come with me to the bath?" "Certainly, your majesty," Lisa Vasilievna answered. "I have not had a bath for a long time and should like very much to steam myself." So they went together to the bathhouse. While King Barkot undressed in the anteroom, she took her bath and left. So the king did not catch her in the bath either. Having left the bathhouse, Vasilisa Vasilievna wrote a note to the king and ordered the servants to hand it to him when he came out. And this note ran, "Ah, King Barkot, raven that you are, you could not surprise the falcon in the garden, for I am not Vasily Vasilievich, but Vasilisa Vasilievna." And so King Barkot got nothing for all his trouble, for Vasilisa Vasilievna was a clever girl, and pretty, very pretty too. I don't understand the point of that story, really. There is an illustration at the end, and it's of a horse. Not sure why. Or maybe it's something else. Might be a donkey. Regardless, I don't understand. 7 nights, Gogol's inspiration died in a duel over his wife. It's a hot-headed what? It was discourses opposed to Fabula. She said he would erect a monument not by human hands. Well, there's another nonsensical note written by me in the pages here. And you know what? I think that is where we will wrap it up for the evening. That was, oh yes, because there's another long one coming up. And I do have a little bit of work to get done before bed. So I will wrap it up there. I will bid you adieu and wish you a good night, everyone. I would like to say once more, thank you all. Thank you for joining. I see I have a few other likes in here. I see Trisha has liked the video as well. Good to know you're here, Trisha. Glad you're watching. Good to see you. And I hope you're doing well. And then for those of you who are also watching, oh yes, Berkeley also reacted. Hello, Berkeley. Glad that you were able to join at some point here. And more shout outs to Mum, to Kathleen, Shay, Nick, and Amber. Hello, Amber. Hello, Heather as well. Good to see the two of you. Yes, Vaseline. I was very close to saying Vaseline, but or did I accidentally say Vaseline at some point during that story? I may have. And once more, hello, Nick. So anyway, glad all of you were able to join tonight. All of you were here, even if just for a little while. And thank you for enjoying the stories. Thank you for watching. I'm loving being able to do this for all of you. So with that, thank you again. Make sure you like and subscribe if you have not already. The YouTube page is BPecorny1. If you have not already, join the Facebook group called Storytime with an exclamation point at the end. And also, if you're interested in seeing other things I do, find me on Twitch. My Twitch username is Brett Doesn't Game. No apostrophes, no spaces, just a capital B at the front. Brett Doesn't Game. BRETT DOESNTGAME. Brett Doesn't Game. I will be probably streaming some games soon and narrating as I do so. So we'll see how that goes. At any rate, thank you again for watching. Much love. I hope you all have an excellent evening, and I will see you next time, that being tomorrow, 10 p.m. for more stories. We will resume Dracula from chapter 5, I do believe. Anyway, good night. I bid you adieu. You're welcome, by the way. Yes, Heather, Twitch is it started as a platform for streaming video games. It's used for other things as well now. But yes, Twitch. I hear that it's quite popular. I know it's quite popular. But I hear it's kind of the way to go now. YouTube is pretty good, but Twitch apparently is where it's at. So I'm giving that a go as well. Although I'm not doing story time there. So story time is just on Facebook and YouTube. Anyway, good night. Much love. I bid you adieu again. Again.